Hello, gamers. I'm alive. My father was in the hospital. That's all I'm going to mention about it. We're just going to continue on. All right. Yeah, Fufu released. Awesome, epic. We're going to read this because everybody cares about this changelog. Along with Fufu's release, we did some further testing. Yixuan finalized replacement alongside a good chunk of other stun and support agents. These changes are as follows. Fufu added to T.5, stun with the partner tag. Fufu finds a niche specifically in Yixuan teams, who she buffs way better than anyone else via off-field aftershock damage and daze. But most importantly, the buffs to top her off, crit, ultimate chain attack damage. All this without any limited W engines needed. Fufu gives extra ultimates over time via her decibel increase and decibel refund mechanics are also very strong, in particular with Yixuan. While Fufu has flexibility outside of those teams compared to Lighter and Lycan, who perform best of any agent with some of the same DPS, or oh my god, with some of the best DPS in the game, as well as Trigger, who's universally strong buffs, Fufu find herself somewhere in between T1 and T.5, depending on her teammates outside of Yixuan teams, mostly having good synergy with SC or Ambi, but even then, Trigger holds more value. For this reason, we decided to give her a ranking that reflects the top performance of one of the best DPS in the game, Yixuan, while giving her the partner tag to reflect her tendency to be outclassed outside those teams, which this I do agree with. The big thing is, and this is why the video is going to be kind of like clickbaity with the title. First off, that's how you know the YouTuber knows what they're doing. Secondly, I might have overrated her in my initial comments when I've talked about this beforehand. I know some people, if you've been around for a little bit, I've talked about this multiple times, like how I would rate these characters and where I'd put them. This is the wrong chart. I should have saved it somewhere. Apparently I don't have it pulled up. Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. I've got a reference one right here. I initially put her in 9 out of 10, or yeah, 9 out of 10, just because I was thinking that she'd be more general use, but it is apparent after, various testing, more information, as well as seeing how she actually plays. I find that the other characters are just often, at least to me, feel better and play better than running Fufu in that slot, especially compared to Trigger specifically, right? Granted, there's also the thing you have to consider with the additional ability passive where you can proc it, but at the same time, Trigger doesn't really need hers to benefit from the bonuses. It's just that if you do, you get the extra stuns, right? That's like the main thing. And so I think it's fair to say that like I probably overrated Fufu a little bit, but I do 100% agree that a lot of Fufu's power is the fact that she's effectively double dipping with Yixuan with getting the extra ultimates back, because Yixuan has 2 ultimates, and so you're going to get double the decibels, right? So yeah, I think that's totally fair to say. And that, in fact, without Yixuan specifically, her performance would arguably be worse than, well, the other characters, right? And that's basically what they're saying. They're not factoring in her utility, the 2 stunner setups, though. That is a fair thing to say. Yeah, the 2 stunner setups they're more niche, right? Lighter specifically is the only character that does want to run that because that's a part of his additional ability. But like even then, a lot of the times running well, I wouldn't say dual support, but at least 1 stunner, 1 support is what a lot of these hyper carry teams do, and that often performs better, especially with characters like Mayavi who do quick swap oriented teams. But again, there's a lot of factors. I just think specifically on this, like when you actually look at the practical application of what stunners do, because impact, like stunners are there for impact, they're there to stun, right? The biggest thing for them is what buffs they provide and how much daze they can contribute to the team. If you aren't getting like a 4th stun from Deadly Assault or whatever it may be, that impact is completely useless for you, right? So that's one of the things that specifically with Fufu here, she doesn't do the most daze damage, and so you do lose a little bit of value there, and that's why a lot of people are, wanting to do double attack on her for slot 5 and 6 instead of doing impact, because the only thing that matters there is, do you get the extra stun or not, right? And that's the main thing with stunners is, are they actually helping you get the extra stun? If not, then you're better off getting more buffs, so like running a double, support comp or something like that, right? And so yeah, sure, it's fair to say that like, hey, you're not considering them in a double stun comp where you're going to get extra ultimates, therefore you can get an extra stun off or something like that, right? But those aren't the best in play right now. And also, it's just really niche because most characters, like Miyabi, for example, really only wants the one stunner because you would on field with your support, which in this case would be Sakako on her Mono Ice team, or it'd be Lighter on her Lighter Lucy team, right? So just the way that the characters play, double stun isn't the most practical for a lot of these setups, right? At least in my opinion. And who knows? Maybe there's some advanced gamer out there that can prove me wrong with, you know, their stuff, like they've got all the stunners leveled or something like that, and they've got this crazy setup where they do trigger plus Lycan on like every character and go crazy. I don't know, but I think it makes sense that Jufufu's ranking here with the partner tag, given that if she didn't have that, she would be lowered down. It's simply because Trigger, at least in my opinion, is more flexible than a lot of these characters. Just she doesn't really play the best in a few teams, right? And that may change with the new support character coming out. Who knows, right? We got Yasuo who's coming out who could be going for the spot of many characters, right? She's a physical support, right? The second ever limited support character. Guess whose spots are in contention for being moved in a lot of these teams? Caesar, Astra, obviously. Any of these stunners that are more flexible stunners that aren't, you know, niche teams like Lighter, which is the entire reason Lighter's up there, right? So, like, we'll see what happens meta-wise next update, but I feel like things could be a little crazy going forward. My Also, to answer that question, no, I'm not going for Fufu. I don't really need her. If you are curious how many pools I have, though, because I know it's very loud in the background, so I do apologize for having Star Rail open when I'm talking about Zinless. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. Maybe. Chat, was it too loud? Because I kind of don't want to try to, like, restate everything I just said, right? Because, holy... I have way too many summons. I'll just pull it up right now. I've got, like, 200 something. There's like 39 what are they called, film reels. So I'll just pull it up right now. Guess how many pulls for me to go from M0 to M2 Fufu lol? I don't want to even guess that. Look, if we've seen anything from I'm Vivorous, is that how you say that name? I honestly, listen, I'm dyslexic, so I be butchering these names. They suggested that Fufu's M1 is more valuable than her weapon, and I would tend to agree, because those dupes giving you extra, was it stun percent, right? Is pretty valuable, right? 30? Wait, what? What do you mean, did you? Alright, bro's over here getting a bunch of earlies. Not important. Let's just continue what I was talking about. So yeah, you can see up here I get a lot of pulls, 39 film reels, and then 26k polychromes, right? So that's pretty good, right? Anyways, back to the tier list, right? So did I misclick? No, I just scrolled down too far. So Yixuan. Yixuan is moved to T0 and the expert and watch list removed. Interesting. Why did they remove the expert? That's interesting. I mean, the watch list one was because they intended to move her up. That's obvious. But I wonder why the expert's removed. Yixuan was already the second best DPS in the game on her release. Now that Fufu is in the mix, she approaches Miyabi closer than ever, mostly depending on the enemy and player skill, which impacts that team Miyabi is best used in. Yeah. They go back and forth in terms of power level, which makes Yixuan her second ever DPS enter T0 since the Void Hunter. Okay. They didn't give a reason. You should M6 Caesar? No. I'm not pulling for Caesar. Whatever. She becomes brainless to play with Fufu, really? Well, I mean, yeah, I played that team, right? I even did testing on other people's accounts for, you know, different teams and whatnot. Which will show up in another video later. I haven't finished making that. I'm slow, guys. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, here's the thing. Yixuan, like, it was obvious how powerful she is. And given the fact that Fufu's out now, it's like, yeah, now she's got her core team. So it makes sense putting her in T0. I'm not mad about this. I'm sure, like, I know whenever Akron got moved out of T0 or something like that in Star Rail, there was photos of people breaking their monitors. I don't know how real that was, but I'm not breaking any monitors here, guys. Okay, I'm just here to have a conversation about the game. And I think if you've looked at the numbers and played the characters, it's obvious that Yixuan is really strong. But it's just at the high end, my Appy was better. But now we've got Fufu, and now they're very comparable, right? Which is, yeah, I mean, I feel like if you disagree with that, you're just kind of stupid, or you're extremely biased towards Yixuan specifically. I've seen so much glazing for that character, bro. People be calling her fucking goated. Like, we knew Miyabi for 4 updates. We've had 1 update to Yixuan. Not even reaching the same feats. The amount of glazing calling her the GOAT already is insane, but whatever. I don't want to get into that debacle that I see on like Instagram where people are just doing all this me versus bro and all these other like edits of her and Yixuan. Insane work. I love the content though. I'm a big fan of JJK Brainrot. And that Team Panda gets a boot in favor of Trigger. Oh. Yeah, true. You can do funny stuff with Panda specifically, but like Panda, I don't know. Panda is obviously made for Rupture agents. I'm sure he'll get more use whenever another Rupture agent comes out, but at the minute, we obviously only have Yixuan, right? So, you know, the moment we need 2 Rupture teams, well, guess what? Panda's value goes right back up, right? That's about it. Which I don't think they lowered Panda, right? I think he's still in the same tier. Yeah, he's still in the same tier. Anyways, continuing. So Trigger's been dropped down to T.5. Trigger's position in the meta is too dependent on her signature weapon. To be fair, on my personal account, I've never used her without her weapon because I'm simping for Trigger. So like, fair enough, you got me. But just wait for more Oval Squad characters, okay? There's 2 more Oval Squad characters on the way, okay? I'm just saying there's 2 more Oval Squad characters, you know. Maybe they'll change their minds when they're meta and they really want Trigger, all right? But I'm not gonna say they're raw. I just saying. But yeah, she's really hard to build without the weapon. So yeah, that much is true. That much is true. So yeah, which our tier list don't factor in. She's got great team flexibility, but but the Death Strike her signature weapon engine makes her provide a good chunk of the reason why she's so efficient. Without her signature weapon, she's not worth considering nearly as many teams as Esir Ambi is her best team, but she's only in T1. Additionally, with Fufu's release, she's lost one of her top use cases in the form of Yixuan teams, where she's now outclassed Lighter, who stood in the same tier as her up till now, had no reliance on his W engine to perform, even though it's a small boost for... This is debatable. I know it's possible with Lighter specifically to actually hit his impact cap, but he comes into a similar problem to where you don't get his full buffs. And yeah, he's still really good. And if you want to argue he's less dependent on his weapon, sure, 100%. But like, I can't, like, I'm not going to necessarily say that every person is getting the max buffs because they don't have one of like the 5-star impact weapons, specifically, was it Coleda's weapon, to actually max out the impact on Lighter, right? Like, not everybody's going to have that. So, like, also there's what, fossilized core. So like, this makes sense, but I would argue that Lighter is one of the characters that is super dependent on his weapon. I mean, if you want to say not as much as Trigger, fair enough, but at least in my opinion, there's certain characters that are pretty dependent on their weapon. That being, the anomaly characters, but not all of them, right? Primarily, I would say Yanagi and like Bernice, right? Just because of the way that work, and Jane. Bernice, to a less extent, the free-to-play weapons for her are really good. But like Yanagi, Jane, I feel like they really need their weapons. And then like Lighter and Trigger as well, right? The other characters, not so much. You can argue Miyabi 100% sure. But like, at least in my opinion, I think Lighter is a bit more dependent on his weapon than they're making it out to be. But, you know, fair enough. If he has Oh my god, English. And he has retained top tier synergies with some of the strongest DPS, such as Evelyn and Hugo. Yep. Making him way more desired. Yep. For these reasons, we deem Trigger's best fit alongside Fufu and Lycan, but she's comfortably in a spot that gains a lot of value with her signature mind. This is true, and I would agree with this, right? A lot of Trigger's performance is behind her weapon, and this, was a bit of topic of debate whenever she first came out. And I would agree that she is arguably more reliant on her weapon than the other characters. I don't think it's fair to say that Lighter isn't super reliant on his weapon because of the fact that it is giving you, an extra, like, was it like 50 crit damage for ice or whatever? Or it might be 40. I might be like going a bit too far, but it's making you get that max impact really easily and giving you another damage buff for those two elements that he's buffing. And so I would say that he, comparatively to some of these other units, really does want his weapon, right? That's it. But I can agree with this, and I think that's totally fair to put her along the same tier, considering that her best team, arguably, with Soldier Zero Ambi, is only at T1, right? So I think that makes sense. Anton got the partner tag? Wait, he did? Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, I didn't get there yet. We're about to get there. So yeah, like I agree with this. Again, it's like if you take a screenshot of this and then were to like draw like, hey, who are they being paired with, right? The best teams. None of the best teams right here are, I mean, Trigger has some of them, right? But all of them are going off the screenshot, right? With the one team that you can argue is like Yanagi Miyabi, but you can just run Astra there. And it's like better, right? Like this team is good, but like you can just run Astra. So I mean, I don't know. And then obviously there's this one, but like Hugo Vlad wants Lighter and Lycan, so and then again, like even if you couldn't do Trigger and Evelyn, it's like your other options of Lighter are like Fufu, for example, typically work out better. So it's here nor there. It makes sense why they're putting her here. Who uses that guy? Why would you waste Astro? What? Oh, Anton? Listen, we'll get to Anton in a second, okay? I don't know why he's got the partner tag, but that's why we're going over the change log, right? That's the point of the video, man. Like, come on. Why is overbuffing in ZZZ bad? Can you reword that question? Because if you're asking like, if you're asking about like the term people like to use is diminishing returns on like buffs, that's just how math works in general, right? Or if you're asking, it's like, oh, they buffed Evelyn or what? Ellen too much, right? That's a different question. So like, could you reword that? Yeah, it's having saturated buffs is like the correct way to word it. Having buff saturation. That is an issue with math in general, right? It's something to do with damage calculations. So Anton has the partner tag. Anton needs Astra. Yeah. I mean, this is. Huh? He needs Astra Yell to play his best, and his optimal playstyle is doing damage solely via quick assist. What the fuck? Okay, I don't know anything about Anton play. But like, what? Are we seriously doing Anton quick assist cancels with Astra? Bro, that's just so cope. That's just so cope. Oh my god. I'm not sorry, bro. That's just cope. That's just cope. Anton really needs the energy to keep his engine burning. And if you are trying to go out of your way to get damage via quick assist because he can't do lightning damage without like energy, like that's, oh my god. Bro. Also, that's funny as fuck as well, because you're right. That means he needs Astra to be in tier 3. So, like, he would be worse. Bro. That's just so funny. You're telling me they would rank him lower if it wasn't for Astra? I mean, at that point, you could argue that for like everybody, but that's just funny. That's just so funny. Listen, you know the funny thing about Anton, right? This is not gonna make sense for people. I have seen Sakaku solo do 20k in Deadly Assault. Where's my Anton video of him doing the same thing? Oh man, that's funny. That's just funny. Okay, I'm talking shit, but like, listen, Prydwen. Listen, I'll praise Prydwen when they get things right, but sometimes I gotta criticize them for things that, at least to me, don't make any sense. Just drop Anton at that point, bro. Just drop Anton. Like, come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Every unit is meme levels of bad. I don't know if I would say everybody is meme levels of bad, but I think it is funny how everybody at the beginning of the game was like, oh, use Grace for your, selector, or hope you get Grace because she's going to be the best aging unit. That shit's funny. That's just funny. Grace is the best aging unit, and she's like the worst unit in the game. Bro, Grace is like the worst 5-star in the game. I mean, sure, there's Nekomata, but like, Grace is like the worst. Grace does nothing. And like, people were trying to say that Grace and her weapon are good investments. It's like, even if you have those niche comps using Grace's weapon, you have to triple down on pin ratio to make it even worthwhile, and even then you're better off getting Nekomata's W engine because it's more flexible on every other character. It's just easier to run for like lower level players than trying to do Grace's weapon. So even in that case, it's still a bad idea. Like, it's actually insane the like the turnaround that Grace has had. She's just bad. This is so funny, bro. Oh my god, we gotta keep going, bro. We gotta keep going. Koleda has some slipping Grace. Yeah, that is true. Grace is nothing, but her playstyle gives you carpal tunnel and aids to play. Yeah, I can't wait for my, Anomaly character to not apply their element Anomaly because half of their attacks are physical damage. That's so fun. Yeah, do no damage. Anyways, let's continue. Which keeps him permanently in burst mode thanks to his M1 effect. Oh, it's because his M1. Okay, again, to be fair, in my defense, I don't know enough about Anton. So I guess that's where he gets his energy, but that's funny. Actually, I don't know if this is still a bug. I need somebody in the comment section to confirm this for me. Does Anton's W engine actually work on him now? Because I remember it was bugged. Somebody pointed this out to me, that Anton's W engine doesn't even work on him because of the way it's like configured in the game. It's this really dumb bug. I mean, I can probably like confirm it right now. I've got his W engine. But somebody was telling me a while back that Anton's W engine doesn't even work on him, which is like a crazy thing. When launching an EX special or chain attack, the damage from basic attacks increases by blah blah for 10 seconds. It's like, yeah, I don't even know if this again, I don't know if it's still the case, but I was told a while ago that his weapon doesn't even work on him. So yeah, if somebody in the comment section knows anything about Anton, please tell me if that is still the case, because that's just so funny. That's just so funny. Wow. That's oh boy. Well, yeah. Wow. Okay. His weapon is bad on him. It's not even about it working. It's just not. Okay, sorry. I'm getting distracted about, trashing on these bad characters. That's just so funny. Anywho, provided you don't play any, You don't do any other attacks with him, which is pretty easy to keep in mind. Anton is undeniably a bottom tier character without Astra. So funny. But he can dish out some surprisingly good damage performances alongside her while we're adding the partner tag to him for this reason. I'm not gonna lie. You know what they need to do? Just to make it funny? Put Sakaku on the expert tag and the partner tag. Hear me out. Because of Sakaku's tech and how it is actually useful in certain teams, put her the expert tag. But then give her the partner tag because she's only going to be used on mono ice team. And then that way you could just be like, oh yeah, solo Sakaku is in T0 because if you know what you're doing, she's a better DPS than half these other characters. Trust guys, trust. I'm telling you. Let me cook. Guys, Sakaku needs Astra Yao, and she can be given the partner tag, right? Be given the partner tag with Astra Yao, guys. Just run her as a DPS. This is just so funny. So funny. Caesar watch list added. Listen, if you know anything about the game, Caesar's been on Fraud Watch ever since, well, I mean, realistically, you want to say Astra Yao came out. But in my opinion, she was on Fraud Watch from day one with the fact that she does an AoE buff, right? As to where all other characters AoE buff, right? With the exception of like Sakaku, right? Which, again, that is one of Sakaku's flaws, but you can get around that in multiple ways, right? It's not a big deal for her specifically on her intended teams, right? But Caesar, it's one of the big flaws, right? Caesar's a relic, true. But yeah, even if you want to say ever since 1.5 with Astra Yao coming out, that Caesar was, you know, kind of on Fraud Watch, fair enough, right? She's got other flaws in her kit that I did discuss in my video talking about buffs that she needs, and at least in my opinion, Caesar's one of the two, arguably like 3 characters that actually still needs a buff. It's not that she's particularly bad, it's just that the release of more characters that are more specialized, or in some cases just directly better, Caesar's kind of lost all her places, right? Especially with like the growing skill level of the community, and doing teams like effectively Nicole on every goddamn team. Hell, there's even people using Nicole on Yixuan teams just because it works in some cases, right? That Caesar's value is just not really there anymore. It's just not, right? She's a solid unit, but the value just ain't quite there. No, don't go for Caesar. I would not recommend people go for Caesar. Listen. This right here, there's a reason why Caesar's down on the list of recommended the pool. Right? You want to know the answer? Because these 3 are up here. These 3 are why you don't pull Caesar. All right? If you want to add in a couple of these other characters, like Yanagi, Lighter, Yixuan, fair enough, right? But these 3 are the reason why you don't pull Caesar, right? It's that simple. Yeah, I mean, I don't really gotta say anything about that. She retains her amazing comfort in play thanks to her big shield and ability to interrupt resist. Yeah, I will say her shield gating is the biggest reason why she's very nice in modes like Tower, because it means you won't get 1 shot, you'll get 2 shot. But yeah, other than that, Caesar isn't really seeing much play in a lot of these teams. And in one of the teams you would primarily use her, you know, what Jane Doe's team, for example, right? Or you used to use her there because of hypercarry Jane Doe, but Bernice is out now, right? Even that team, it was kind of whatever because she would steal up like half of your anomaly application, so you'd lose out half your damage, right? So yeah, it's just like unfortunate. Now Yasuo is about to come out, who's gonna completely take that role on like every team, right? Yasuo's gonna come out and every flex spot that Caesar had is just gone, right? Because she's basically doing the same thing but like better. So yeah, rip Bozo to Caesar, but I don't know. I hope they would do some improvements to her kit. Like, again, something I talked about a lot in my buff video. And so I can just really pray that she gets something, right? Or maybe they leave her on the wayside. You know, I'm sure Caesar will get more viability with the physical resurgence that seems to be happening because we're getting 2 physical characters next update. But yeah, she's I don't know, she's not competing against some of these more advanced setups and newer characters coming out. Excuse me. But she contributes less to party's damage than other buffers in the current meta. Yep. Again, exactly what I was saying. So we're watchlisting her with the potential to move her to T1 next update. She will be, by the way, 100%. Her main issue is that her shield only buffs the active agent. Wow, I just said that. This isn't her only issue. This is one of the bigger issues with it. But yeah, it's because a lot of these teams are now adopting everybody doing damage. And if Caesar can only buff the one character, well, that's taken away from everybody doing damage, right? That's like the simplest way to put it. This severely impacts a lot of agents operate from off-field. Yep, Mayabi, for example, and she cannot give attack buff to them. By extension, can't apply the attack buff to any swap canceled abilities. Same thing, right? This severely impact. This is because there's no snapshotting in the game for this kind of stuff, by the way. This severely impacts her value in the meta as a damage buffer. Not to mention, recent stun agents also started providing stronger party-wide buffs, as well as simply inflicting stronger days than Caesar. So, yeah, that again makes sense. I do predict Caesar's gonna get dropped down. How's my favorite yapper? I'm doing all right. That's about it. How you doing? How you doing? My mini, or I shouldn't say favorite chatter. You're all my favorite chatter. We got communism in my chat, right? But yeah, I do agree with many of their like placement changes on the tier list. I would argue a few characters are maybe overvalued in some case. I mean, I don't know. They gave the partner tag to Fufu for a reason, but I still think that characters like Bernice are like less valuable, but that's here nor there. The main thing is that Bernice has really good matchups right now, so it's like fair enough. But I mean, like everything else, I pretty much agree with. There's nothing really on here that I would say I like super disagree with, right? I don't know. I think they're like doing a pretty good job, all things considered. Of course, it's Prydwen. There's a little bit of silliness usually, but I don't know. Chat, do you guys have any closing words? Again, I don't got much to say besides the fact that I generally agree with this, and I do think you know, some characters probably could get a little bit more of a spotlight, right, if you will. I don't get special treatment status. I'm pretty good. My parents are on vacation. I'm having a time of my life. Yo, base. Blow up the house for real. Is Ambi worth pulling? She's a solid DPS. But if you're asking me, I think there are better DPS that are more worth your time. That's the main thing. So yeah, we'll end this video. 30 minutes of me yapping, me reading the Prydwen changes. Again, I'll just repeat. Don't got much to say. I think they're doing a pretty good job. Most of it I agree with. I only comment on stuff that is really egregious and really isn't much here. So yeah. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, check me out on Twitch, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.